Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to study a poem If by Rudyard Kipling. In this lesson you will find a recitation of the poem, discussion on the structure of the poem, its central idea or theme, summary of the poem, stanza wise explanation, and after that an assignment will be given to you related to this poem. This poem, If, is written by Rudyard Kipling. It was first published in 1910. It is somewhat ironic that Kipling wrote a poem about what it takes to be a virtuous man. He was an imperialist who was all for the colonization of the British Empire. Kipling himself spent a lot of time in British India, and Kipling wrote the poem after he was inspired by the actions of Leander Starr Jameson. If If you can keep your head when all about you, or losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give away to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you have spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60-second worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Now, if you just look at the structure of the poem, it is separated into four stanzas of equal length. Each stanza contains 8 lines, and each stanza has the same rhyme scheme of A B A B C D C D, with the exception of the first stanza, which has a rhyme scheme of A A A A B C B C. If by Rudyard Kipling paints a picture of some real concerns about the human world and the admirable goals that one must pursue. The overarching theme of the poem, If, is successful, virtuous living based on values pertaining to integrity, rightful behavior, and self development. The poem seeks to each and every reader on what it means to become a complete man and how it operates through the thick and thin of life. Now, this poem can be viewed as a set of guidelines on how to live and act with integrity and right values such that one becomes the ideal human. Each of the four stanzas deals with different life situations and the best way to act during them. The poem If does not have a conspicuous physical setting. However, after reading the poem, one can visualize a scene in which a father is speaking to his son and giving him the most valuable life lesson on how to become a complete man. In order to understand stanza wise explanation, you need to revisit slide number 3, that is the poem. In the first stanza, Kipling writes, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. In this first if scenario, Kipling reminds the reader of the importance of maintaining a level head when those around the reader do not have one and are blaming the situation on the reader. The third and the fourth line present the next if situation. Kipling writes, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. Here the speaker emphasizes two traits that all people must possess: self-trust and ability to understand the thoughts and feelings of others, even if that means understanding that people will not always like or agree with you. The final four lines of the stanza flow together, almost sounding as though they are one complete thought. In these lines, the speaker is telling the reader to have patience. Moreover, he informs the reader that even he or she is lied about, or he or she should not stoop to the level of a liar. If she is hated, or he or she must become hateful, and finally, the reader should not appear to be better than he or she actually is, nor should he or she talk in a manner that does not reflect who they are morally or spiritually. If we look at second stanza, uh, again, Kipling urges his reader to dream and think, but to not get so caught up in dreams and thoughts that the reader loses his grasp on reality. Here we see that Kipling uses personification in the next two lines: triumph and disaster. Triumph and disaster are personified. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. Now, if you just look at the word imposter, it suggests a pretense or disguise. Uh, it, it suggests that this word is used to showcase the fleeting nature of both. Success never stays, nor does the disaster. Moreover, we can say that poet possibly be suggesting that with these two words often comes a disruption or change. In any case, the reader should not dwell too much on either triumph or disaster because they will soon disappear. Kipling continues right on to his next if clause, and he informs, if you can bear to hear the truth you have spoken. The speaker informs the reader that he or she must be able to endure hearing his or her words being twisted by dishonest and harmful people in order to serve their own agendas. He continues his thought in the last two lines and demonstrate in the lines the importance of being able to pick oneself up and start again if they fail. In the third stanza, if clause continues, Kipling writes, if you can force, if you can make one heap of all your winnings. The theme in these lines is very similar to the one in the last two lines of the previous stanza. If you lose everything, you must be willing to begin again. Not only that, but you must also be willing to forget about the loss and not dwell on it. The next four lines of third stanza are also tied together. In these lines, the speaker is imploring the reader to endure even that feels both physically and emotionally impossible. It is also worth noting the capitalization of will. Perhaps Kipling wanted to emphasize the resilience of the human spirit here by making it a power that is separate from the person who possesses it. Now, if we look at the fourth stanza, The consequence of doing all of these ifs is finally revealed in this stanza, but not before Kipling presents us with three more scenarios. The first one deals with how to treat others regardless of their station in life. He writes, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, it should not matter with whom the reader is walking. He or she needs to treat the lowest of the low and the highest in the society exactly the same, with kindness. Kipling then dives right into the next if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. Kipling is reminder his reader that it is important to be able to bounce back from disappointment or pain. One must not dwell on his enemies or hurt a loved one could potentially cause. Finally, the poet gives the reader his final piece of advice. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, he is telling his reader to never give up or waste even a single second of time. If you are given a minute, make sure you use all 60 seconds of it. Finally, in the last two lines, the outcome of the abiding by all of these tidbits is revealed. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. If one is able to keep all of these things in check, one will have the world at one's fingertips. Now, I hope that you people have understood the poem. You have got the main idea or the central theme of the poem as well. Now, your task is you will list the set of conditions speaker of the poem sets for his son. Thank you.